Hello and welcome to Flipping Through the Internet's #1 Mad Magazine news, review, and interview channel. Hello. I've already said that. Anyway, so today I'm doing a new video in my First Appearances series. This time I'm focusing on the one and only Paul Coker Jr., one of my favorite Mad Magazine artists. Before I get into that, please remember to hit like and subscribe, share this out. We recently went above the 200 subscriber mark, but that is not where my desires for this channel's growth end. I want to keep it growing, and I can't do that without your help. Speaking of which, on that topic, you'll see beneath me there is a link. I started a Facebook group. This is where I'm going to be sharing the YouTube videos. Any live stream that I do in the future will also be broadcast to Facebook. And then on top of that, if you have any ideas or suggestions about things to make videos about, you could post it there and I'll see it and respond to it. Anyway, with that, let's move on. Paul Coker. Paul Coker got his start at Mad Magazine with issue number 60. And if you're thinking, wait, that seems like a significant issue to get your start in. It is. It's a very significant issue. It is that it is not only the first appearance of Paul Coker, but his first appearance might be slightly overshadowed by the first appearance of Antonio Projas and Spy vs. Spy. But that's not all. There's a ton of stuff in that issue that is just wonderful. Again, I mean, like the cover itself, it's that famous flip-flop cover. I don't know why I didn't pull it out of my collection. But it's the famous political cover with Richard Nixon on the actual cover. And then if you turn it over, it is John Kennedy, JFK. And they're identical other than Alfred E. Newman saying, "I've been with you the whole time." If you have not seen the first appearances video before, what I do is I pick an artist and I look at their very first appearance in Mad Magazine, their final appearance in Mad Magazine, and I pick out some of the issues in between that span and dig into those a little bit. So let's move over to the web browser so I can show you some of these fantastic appearances that Paul Coker had. So a mad peek behind... Oops, here we go. Nope, there we don't go. All right, a mad peek behind the scenes. So this is the very first appearance not only of Paul Coker, but also of this recurring series of a mad peek behind the scenes. It could be a magazine, a television show, the White House, I think, was one of them. So this was one of the things, among others, that was recurring for him. So we have this wonderful a mad peek behind the scenes at the New Yorker magazine. Let's zoom in on that a little bit more. And so we have just like, the New Yorker. If you're somehow unaware, famously they have, I don't know that it's a logo, but it was a famous image for the magazine with this person in a top hat and a butterfly and a monocle and all of that. So here we have a mad peek behind the scene of a rock and roll composer. Now, he was 30 years old when he got his start, and one of my favorite things to do is look at how the artist's style changes from that first moment they appear in Mad to their final appearance, or sort of when they even still there when they were at their peak. And so he has a different style. You have things like this face right here, which is like this guy's missing a nose and he has this like really strange smile. And then you have this guy who, this grin he has reminds me almost of in Dr. Seuss's how the, when the, what is it? When the Grinch stole, how the Grinch stole Christmas. But anyway, when the Grinch has that grin that just like goes up towards his eyes, it reminds me of that. but it is unmistakably Paul Coker Jr. His style didn't change that much between when he first started and when he sort of was in his peak, his prime. Some really cool use of this like gray wash to have the glow of the television screens. Anyway, I'm going to zoom out just a bit so that I could kind of show that off a little bit better. I'm going to move on to the next issue. I'm going to go chronologically, which brings us to one thing, another series that he was incredibly well known for. I would say this might just be his most well-known work, are the Horrifying Cliches. This was written by Paul Hahn. And this is, you can see even between issue 60 and issue 103, I wonder if I could find real quick the time difference with those. On madcoversite.com, it's my go-to, especially when I'm trying to find specific gags like this. Madcoversite is the best site that I have found for finding that sort of like the minute detail. So 103 was in 1966, and so this was a 5-year period between his first appearance and this not being his second appearance. He very quickly became a regular contributor to Mad Magazine. But this has, it's one of those things where I would very much like to know how much input the writer had in what was drawn. Sometimes we have with artists and writers, the writers explaining some of the visual gags that they would like to see. And so I'm just very, very curious to know how much of this was just Paul Coker and how much of this was Phil Hahn just looking up a bunch of idioms. So drumming up a little school spirit. Oh, that's kind of sad. That's like a dead kid, right? Anyway, that's just depressed. I've depressed myself. Burying a grudge. What's so fun about these is that even the ones that are not sort of macabre become macabre, right? Like delivering a veiled threat is, it's like it's all very dark and medieval. I don't know, almost reminiscent of Edward Gorey, not in style, but in content in a way. The way like these sort of like dark trees and the kind of like the rendering with the hatches. So this is time has changed the meaning of pulling a boner. Oh gosh, just like I know that some people must watch these videos and think like, God, he laughs at like the dumbest, most childish things, and it's true. You're not wrong, but I mean, it's just changed, and I have a hard time. I know like a boner is a mistake. I understand the original meaning, right? Like you've made a mistake, you pulled a boner, but it's just that's not how I grew up knowing the word boner. Scotching an ugly rumor. Pouring him a nice blended scotch, probably. But yeah, just all of these like little creatures and this kind of sketchy style where the lines are not lines that you would assume could be drawn in one sweep are not. And it's wonderful. I love his style. He does it. What you don't have though in these is well, you kind of have it in the monsters, right? So like these sort of bizarre noseless faces, they don't appear on people anymore. They appear on the monsters. I got to zoom out again, just cause. Ooh. Here we go. This is later, not too late, too much later. Mad issue number 134. You know you're really on your own when. And again, this is a recurring thing. He was working with writers Tom Koch and Gloria L. Rich. This is one that changed a lot. But this, I feel like, is where he comes into, around this time, his own, like, I don't know, he masters his own style. And you can see that by the amount of details that he fits in. I love the perspective in this. Like, it almost looks like the perspective is incorrect, except when you consider that he wants that guy to look overbearing and her to be fearful, right? So even though he is so far back, he looms so much larger over than her. You know you're really on your own when you finally have a groovy pad all to yourself and there's nobody to wait up and let you into it when you forget your key. I love this right here. This scene is just wonderful, this disheveled room. But it's not just lumps of nothing. It's paper, and you could pick out every single sheet of paper. You can see like the pill bottles and cans and stacked up there with some nice folded laundry and then more laundry spilling out. It's just wonderful. It looks like an actual room. And it's wonderful. Again, like, I don't know, maybe like he's just so good at drawing a mess. Here you have it. Oh, can I scroll over? No, I can't. How am I going to do this? Because this is one here. I can kind of do that. So this is one right here. These two where we have this woman sitting at the bus stop. You know you're really on your own when you have to spend the night sitting in the bus station because there is a mouse in your room. What? You know, maybe this is just, I don't know. I guess I live a very different life than whoever wrote this. You know you're really on your own when you skip past record players in the trading stamp catalog to see how many books you need for a carpet sweeper. I'm going to need somebody older to explain this joke to me. I do not get that. Don't get that one at all. I apologize. I apologize for my ignorance. But yeah, this is also, and I'm not sure I'm going to really be able to back this up with the opposite claim, but I think this is when, like, you can see, this supports my my idea, my thought that he really is best in a box. When he's boxed in, that's his best work. One thing I noticed is that I think it may have been later behind the scenes runs or behind the scenes examples where he has sort of a splash page and then text is interspersed in it. And I feel like those he has a hard time filling those splash pages. But when he has the smaller canvas to work on, he's able to fill it with just the right amount of details. In those splash pages, you would see that it's almost filled with just scribbles sometimes that don't add to the illustration at all. And I mean, in my estimation, I think detract from it. Oh, there we go. Now moving on to 346. I just picked this one because it's sort of relevant, but this is the statistical breakdown of mad subscriber cancellations. But this is actually not. This undermines what I literally just said. So, take my commentary with a grain of salt, I guess. but he fills this one very nicely. I guess what I would say is this is all caricatures. This is all faces. And it is absolutely lovely. Mad 346 came out in 1996. So this is a significant leap forward, and you can see how his style has changed. Like one thing that I admire about some... What? What happened? Here we go. So one thing that I admire about certain illustrators is the way they can draw a plethora of faces, and they all look incredibly unique. With this, I don't get that same sense. A lot of these, to me, look just very similar. Like Jack Davis was somebody like that, where if he drew a crowd of people, every single one of those people were unique. A lot of these seem like kind of copies of them, and I think part of it is the brow and the mouth. You get these this sort of like kidney-shaped yelling mouth a lot. I don't know. Maybe that's like a piddly thing to complain about, but let's read this a little bit too. So the statistical breakdown of subscriber cancellations: 10% horny single guys disappointed that carrying around a copy of Mad just isn't the babe magnet they thought it would be. 8% Dan Quayle fans who just got the first jokes we did about him back in 1988. 10% homeboys expecting more articles on bitches and hoes. I guess that is actually a legitimate gripe, I think. There aren't very many articles about bitches and hoes. 6% dentists with enough old issues now to keep their waiting rooms stocked till the year 2017. 18% people who finally figured out how much we suck. 1% new readers with nasty infections from one of our crummy subscription offer lapel pins. Boy, I wish I had some lapel pins, even if I got an infection. Anyway, I do like this. For some reason, he threw in Beavis and Butthead. Maybe there are Beavis and Butthead jokes. And we have, who's this guy? Bart Simpson, right? And then, of course, I guess Satan and Santa and a copper. Let's hop over to 547. Another huge leap. This is where he gets... pardon me if what I say is offensive, but this is where he gets reduced to the Fundalini Pages. But he is in good company. We have Rick Tulka here. That's another guy that got reduced to the Fundalini Pages. But I'm really going to have to zoom in on this one. Here, I'll slide this over. There we go. Tips for enjoying yourself. Oops. At America's national parks. I mean, by this time, like, how old is the man? He's got to be in his, like, 70s or 80s or something. I think he's like 91. But he's still a master. I mean, look at this. It's a lovely illustration. Let's see if he sells the gag. Remember that the giant redwoods are legally protected. Trying to smuggle one out will land you in a world of trouble. Yeah, it's okay. That's a hard one to illustrate, though. I don't know. I do like his stuff colored in. I think that it doesn't work for all artists, especially ones that have been with Mad for ever. It's harder to kind of mentally transition to color illustrations, for me at least. Like, I think I've mentioned before, Sergio Aragonés, I find it difficult to look at his stuff colored. I mean, it's not difficult to look at. I prefer it black and white. So we have that like teeny tiny one right there. I have another example going back to his most famous, I think it's fair to say, work, which is Horrifying Cliches. This, of course, the special Trump edition. Writer Desmond Devlin, if you haven't, check out the interview, the promo stream I did with him and Tom Richmond. I enjoyed myself. I think they did too. I want to have Desmond on again because I have some more questions for him and some of the folks that he worked with. And I don't have that many writers on the show. Anyway, so we have releasing hateful tweets. And, it is what it is. I think that, what can I say about Trump jokes? I think generally speaking, they're played out. It's hard to be funny. But I enjoy his caricature of Trump. There are certain things that it hits that everybody's caricature hits. The contrast, the white around the eyes, the orange complexion, his kind of hair. Everybody has their own interpretation of it, and it's fine. I would say that like judging it on his normal work, it's like you would not, this feels just like the stuff he was doing when he was in his prime. And he was, at this point, perhaps an old man. Actually, yes, he was an old man at this point. 548, I think he's like 91 years old right now. 548 came out 3 years ago. So he was an octogenarian. He was well into octogenarianhood, and he was still producing really high quality illustrations. You don't see like the hand slowing down as you do with some other artists. So here we have making a false claim. I like that. Look at he's stitching it together. That's beautiful. Exposing his ignorance. I like that because it plays on the joke in two different ways. One is ignorance is naked, but also exposing by like unveiling, and then dividing a nation. Anyway, so his final, this is sort of like what I consider his final appearance, but it's not his actual final appearance in Mad Magazine. His final appearance in Mad Magazine was with this, the mug shots gag, which a bunch of, I think they tried to get as many artists as they could or wanted, I guess, I don't know, and had them do self-portraits or draw portraits of writers for those people who are not artistically inclined. And they drew portraits of them for these fake mugshots. And so you have all sorts of folks here. Like here's Desmond Devlin, drawn by Tom Richmond. Here's Tom Bunk, drawn by maybe Tom Bunk. I don't know. I don't know if Tom Bunk did his own self-portrait. It would make sense, but this is like really beautiful. It's not as cartoony as he normally does. Obviously, Peter Cooper did Peter Cooper's. And here is the self-portrait of, who am I talking about? Oh yeah, Paul Coker Jr. by Paul Coker Jr. I think self-portraits are pretty interesting. And this is quite a lovely one. Look at, he has his ink pen, which you can tell that he still uses those based on the lines and everything. And I love it. It's very sweet, but personally, I don't consider it his final appearance. I would say that it's best to consider like regular features to be a final appearance. But that's just me. And it's also not true, strictly speaking. Anyway, I have not, there's one huge part of Paul Coker Jr.'s career that I did not even touch upon because I don't know anything about it. And that is Paul Coker Jr. after he got his job with Mad Magazine, was a character designer for Ranken and Bass. And if you don't know Ranken and Bass, well, you do know Rankin and Bass because they did all of those, the holiday sort of stop motiony things back in the 1960s, like Rudolph, Frosty the Snowman, all of those cartoons. Those were Rankin and Bass, and he did the character design for those. Which ones he's responsible for personally, if he was the head of it, I do not know, but I know there will be people who could comment about that below. Again, if you're not watching this on Facebook already, please understand I am posting this not only on YouTube, but I'm also linking it onto Facebook in this Facebook group, facebook.com/group/flippin' through. I'm pretty sure I got that URL right, but if I didn't, forgive me. Please, once again, hit like and subscribe if you want to. If you have any ideas for future videos or any requests for interviews, yes, actually requests for interviews because I'm doing more of those, or requests for specific issues, leave it in a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Toodaloo.